Welcome
Hello,
back
everybody,
to
and
Full
welcome
Sport.
to Full Sport Press. This is episode 4. Actually, episode 4v3, because this is our third time starting the recording.
Yeah, I was
But we
supposed
have.
to introduce,
You
but
weren't,
yeah,
but here we are. My name is Zach,
I'm Peyton.
and we're going to talk about some sports. All right, well, do we want to start off with what we saw this week?
Let's start it off with what we saw, and I'll go ahead and set the scene for mine. I was visiting my parents this weekend, so we were on the couch. I was on the couch. My mom and my dad were on the other two couches, and
Setting up a
one
scene
of the
for us.
one of the games had just ended, so I switch it over to Arizona State because I see it's pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona gets fouled. They hit they hit a free throw to go up 2. And I'm like, all right, pretty much over. There's like 3 seconds left. They don't have any timeouts. They're just gonna have to pass it in, chunk it. And so I'm sitting there, and they pass it in. The guy catches it, shoots it from beyond half court, and swish. And I literally was like, oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And I just started screaming because I was like, I couldn't believe it happened. It was a crazy buzzer beater, and the upset
Beautiful.
itself would have been crazy, but the fact that you add on that buzzer beater to
Yeah.
it was probably the best moment of the weekend, which was a full college basketball weekend, like a ton of good moments on Saturday.
Nice. Well, mine, let's set the scene up for you, was at an arcade bar downtown yesterday afternoon with one of our friends, and we were watching the end of the IU Iowa game, and wow, I'm so happy we did. We almost didn't, but we did. That game ended on, much like yours, a buzzer beater for Iowa to upset number 2 IU, which is insane. There were 5 seconds left, and it was tied up 83-83. All seemed swell in the world. And then IU inbounds. Iowa somehow gave up a foul, and IU made both of their free throws. So it was like, okay, 85-83 at this point. There's 1.5 on the clock left. You're not expecting anything to happen. And then you remember Iowa has Caitlin Clark. And man, did she do them in. They run this play just for her. Everybody in the whole world knows it's going to Caitlin Clark. They inbound it to her, and right off the pass, she puts up a 3, and it goes in like it was nothing. Wet like water.
I did watch the highlight on Twitter. It was pretty crazy.
It was insane. So, very good what I saw from this weekend. And sounds like yours was good as well.
Oh yeah, it was definitely crazy. Which you saw it too, the video, right?
I did.
So
I did.
it was a crazy ending. And there was a couple honorable mentions. You got the Florida State buzzer beater over Miami after they came back from down like 25 or something. And then the Iowa comeback against Michigan State when they were down 13 with a minute 20 left. I mean, there was a lot of good moments.
Before Caitlin Clark happened, mine was going to be the ref stare down with Grant McCaffrey. That was hilarious.
The ref stare down.
Oh boy.
No words said, just staring.
Yeah. It lets you know nobody's safe in Iowa.
Oh goodness. All right. Before we start with our sports, why don't we go ahead and recap our games of the week from last week? I had Texas Baylor, and this game started out Texas on a hot streak, like 24-4 or something, 19-4, something around that area. They were up huge, and I was thinking, oh man, Baylor might get blown out at home. And then Baylor just flips the switch, and they control the rest of the game. Keep in mind, this is after Keontae George got hurt, which is their star player. And they come back, and they just controlled the rest of the game. Texas really never was in it. Once they got up, Baylor got up. It was never really a game after that. And Baylor controlled it till the end. I think an impressive win that Baylor really needed. They kind of struggled. They lost to Kansas the previous week. They needed a big win to kind of get them back on track, and that one is for sure going to do it for them. I mean, Texas is a good team. So, yeah, it was a good game, but Baylor kind of dominated it.
Yeah. All righty. Well, mine was IU Purdue, the sequel, and this one I think was surprising to a lot of people. IU did end up winning. They won 79-71 in Purdue, which is a pretty big deal. So IU now is 20-9, number 17 in the nation, or at least at this point. I haven't looked at the new rankings today.
We'll discuss them later.
Okay. And at this point, Purdue was number 5, and they now have 5 losses. But yeah, in this game, it seemed like it was really close, and then IU just started going away with it. And then also you have Jalen Hood Schifino? Thank you. Jalen Hood Schifino, who just decided he wasn't going to miss anything.
Yeah, he was insane in that game. I've seen them play a couple times, and he's been pretty good. But like this game, unstoppable. And usually they go through Trace Jackson Davis, but this game it was all Jalen Hood Schifino. And he just controlled the game. And whenever Purdue would try to make a comeback on the other side, Jalen Hood Schifino just hits a shot, and it was just no way stopping him, especially near the end. And I think it is an impressive win for sure. One that Indiana could use for seeding wise. I feel like. Absolutely. I mean, that's a season sweep of Purdue, and it is depending on if they meet in the Big Ten tournament or not.
Yeah, I mean, and Purdue has. I feel like if there has been a favorite this year, for the majority of it has been Purdue.
Yeah,
and now I feel like there's just zero. I feel like no clue what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So.
All right,
March is going to be fun.
Oh yeah, moving on to college football. I believe Zach has 2 stories for us.
I am so excited for these. So we're gonna start with one that's not that serious. It's just kind of funny. It's the new age of NIL, and this is one of the things that's clearly happening because of it. So let's say you're a college football fan up in the state of Utah, and you love them Cougars just almost as much as you love Jesus. Well, I'm here to tell you, for $350, you and 2 guests can go on a 4-day Carnival cruise from California to Mexico with the BYU football team.
That I guess there's a market there, but like, who's doing this? Who is buying these tickets to go on a cruise with a football team?
This includes player meetups, like during meals and mini golf, apparently.
That is certainly something. I don't even know how to react to that. Like, what kind of, I guess, super fans, but even then, I feel like it's just weird.
I would not. There's no way.
Yeah, just a cruise with a team. It's
really strange.
Yeah. That one's. I'm going to pass on those opportunities, but
yeah.
I guess if you have the money, why not?
Yeah, why not? I mean, but like $350 for a cruise, that's not too bad.
That isn't bad.
That's not bad. But anyway. All right, so the next story, this is a fun one. I don't know how close everybody follows college football here, but there's a lot of stuff going down with the conferences and how they're set up. It's a whole bunch of like DC jargon, that sort of thing. But it can get real juicy. And here's one of the cases where it has. Just to kind of update you, the conferences up until now have kind of been split up regionally. So you have the Southeastern Conference, which has teams like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, so forth. You have the Pac-12, which has all your West Coast teams like California, USC, Oregon, Washington. Yeah. But now they're starting to drift to where teams and bigger brands would like to go make a little bit more money than their current conferences are giving them. So Florida State seems like they might be one of those teams. They had a big meeting last week and basically came out to the ACC and said, listen, we need to change how we distribute our funds because we're getting screwed, basically. The SEC, just for reference, with all the money they bring in from all the sports tickets, however they make money, I'm not sure exactly how it's done. Probably illegally in some ways. It is what it is. All of the funds are distributed equally to every team. So Alabama gets the same amount of money that Vanderbilt gets, and so forth. The ACC does not do it this way. The ACC gives its biggest earners more money. So, for a team like Florida State, who was really good at one point, and now they're kind of fizzling out. They're trying to come back. They're fizzling out. They're not making as much money as they would like to be. and they might end up leaving the ACC. And just to further this point, they have come up with a buyout price of $120 million to buy themselves out of the ACC and go to whatever conference they would like, just to get some more money.
I felt like Florida State and Clemson, those two especially, I feel like it's inevitable that they're going to end up leaving the ACC. And it comes down to football, I feel like, because if it's not as big of a deal now that we're going to 8 teams, but they're just not getting that competition that I think they really need, because like there's sometimes good teams. Louisville sometimes has a good team. North Carolina sometimes has a good team, but I feel like they want that consistent challenge all year of having a tough schedule. Maybe they don't, but I feel like if you're one of those two schools and you want to keep up the prestige of the football team, move to the SEC, or well, that would make the most sense, but because of the location. But I feel like move to the SEC. At this point, you're getting to a power conference because Texas and Oklahoma is moving there. If you move those two there, but I mean, ACC is really starting to lack when it comes to football quality, and I know that's not the only sport, but when it comes to like money, I mean, those are the two schools that are getting their money from football. So I feel like it's inevitable that something's going to happen there.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up Clemson because their AD had a response to all this. You know, our favorite people up in Clemson.
Oh, we love Clemson.
Yeah, he came out and said that the way the ACC distributes funds now is how it should always be. Now, I'm sure he's not biased at all because Clemson brings in the most money by far.
Yep.
I'm sure that has nothing to do with it.
Of course not.
But so I don't think Clemson will be leaving it anytime soon. They have no reason to leave the ACC if they're making bank off of them.
Well, see, the question is like,
and they're going to continue to.
If Florida State leaves, you have to assume someone else would leave with them, just because that's usually how it works. Usually, 2 teams at least going. Does that put Clemson in like a panic mode of there's no one left here, that like the big brands are leaving? That's got to scare Clemson, right? Because if Florida State leaves, or in Miami, even though Miami's fallen off, they're still a big brand. Does that scare Clemson as like, or is the ACC going to become a smaller conference? Is it going to drop off? Is it going to be the American athletic level? Like, I mean, I don't know. It might be a little scary, I feel like, if that happens for Clemson.
Could be. But yeah, that's all with college football that's happening right now.
All right, we're going to move on to soccer. And I have some interesting I'm going to talk about the MLS this week. Nothing really major in the English Premier League. Liverpool still stinks, and Chelsea still stinks. But the MLS season started this weekend, and it was a bigger deal than normal because they had a brand new release of a season pass, is what they're calling it, on the Apple TV. I talked about it a little bit this week or last week, but after having a week of it, I can now talk about it a little more. In my opinion, it was a huge success, and just because I haven't watched MLS much in previous seasons, but just going off Twitter, reading some MLS fans and stuff like that, it seems as though like previous to this season, first off, if there was coverage of every match, it was pretty low quality. It was on ESPN Plus, and there was like 720p, or like not what you would want to be watching, but you're gonna watch it just because you want to watch your team. Now, every Apple broadcast that I watched was extremely high quality, like at least 1080p. So like it wasn't anything lower than that. They had a pregame for every match of a studio host, and they would go around to each match, kind of similar to the English Premier League mornings. And it kind of seemed like they had taken it a little bit from NBC Sports in their coverage on Peacock. But I feel like it's what the MLS needs. Somewhere you can get coverage of it. You can watch old matches. You can see 7-minute videos of match highlights of each match. They have a new TV show starting where it's going to be a breakdown of every match week. I feel like it's what the MLS needed as far as coverage. I mean, it is a little extra money because it is a subscription. But if you are a soccer fan at all and maybe you haven't seen the MLS, I really suggest giving it a try. It is very, very good service. And I feel like the soccer is getting better there. Atlanta United, or is it Atlanta United? Yeah. They had a this guy Thiago Almada, he had these 2 crazy goals that if you haven't seen, they're really awesome. But a lot of good matches I watched, and sadly, Charlotte FC they lost 1-0. But it's early in the season.
Jersey looks good.
It does. Though. I mean, this is their New Jersey. They weren't wearing it. That's why they lost. No. Yeah. But I highly recommend checking it out. Don't watch it on Fox Sports. That's trash. I saw they showed a side by side of the Apple TV coverage of one of the matches and the Fox Sports coverage of one of the matches. And Fox Sports literally looked like it was in a basement with a sheet hanging behind them that just said DoorDash, and it was 2 guys just sitting there with a sheet behind them. And then you go into the Apple coverage, and it's a big studio with like matches behind them and 4 guys talking about it, and like it was just so much better presentation of all that, and I think it was pretty impressive. Yeah. So moving on to the PLL, and if you don't know what that is, the Premier Lacrosse League. Now their season isn't till the summer, so why are we talking about them? They had a special competition called the Championship Series. It was not normal lacrosse rules. I know, Zach, you watched at least a little bit of that first match I told you about. It was, in my comparison, if you combine basketball rules into lacrosse, that was the best comparison I had to it, because it was it was 6-on-6. You start off every quarter with a face-off, but after that, there were no more face-offs. You just get it out of the goal and you run, kind of like an inbound in lacrosse. The goalie would just pick it up and pass to a guy, and they would run down the field. And it was extremely high scoring. So it was 5v5 plus a goalie, so 6v6. And it's a kind of a new version of lacrosse they were trying out, and it's going to possibly be what they do in the Olympics for lacrosse. So it was kind of like an experiment kind of thing. And in my opinion, highly successful. It was really entertaining to watch. Constant action. I mean, there was hardly a break. And quick games. I mean, only an hour and a half for a game. I feel like that's pretty easy to watch. And it was just entertaining. What did you think of it, the little bit that you watched?
I was very confused because I just don't know anything about lacrosse. It definitely, there was a lot of scoring. Yeah. I remember, I think I was doing my research for a topic we're going to talk about a little bit later coming up. So I was like going back and forth, but I looked up at one point and it's just like 8-6 with like 3 seconds left in the first quarter. And I'm like, oh, wow. And then I looked up at another and there's people just getting beat with these sticks. And I'm like, wow.
I do have to say, if you were a first-time lacrosse viewer, at first it would have been confusing just because it was so fast-paced. But I feel like it's the best way to get introduced to it because it is so fast-paced that you were going to want to watch it. Like, it's not like you're watching someone pass it around 20 times before they actually shoot it. It's 3 or 4 passes, boom, shoot it, and keep going. But yeah, I thought it was very cool just to see it happen in a new experiment. All right, moving on to women's basketball.
Honestly, I don't have much to say about this because we kind of already talked about it. But yeah, number 2, IU lost to number 6 Iowa yesterday. That was the big one.
So I guess my only question...
South Carolina is still undefeated.
I think South Carolina, they're going to run the table. That's my prediction now. They're going to win the Natty.
Yeah.
And
they should.
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana was the one other team that got a vote for first place in the AP poll previously. And now that's pretty much over. So
I don't think it's over because IU definitely should have won that game. Like, they did only just lose on the buzzer beater. It just happens. And I still feel like South Carolina could lose. I don't feel like they will, but they definitely could. Last year, they were in the exact same position. Undefeated, completely ran the table. And then in the conference tournament championship, lost on a buzzer beater to Kentucky. So, no clue what's going to happen in the tournament.
In my opinion, though,
Gamecock should roll. But,
in my opinion, though, if you're going to lose, that's the time. Do it before the NCAA tournament. I'm going to be honest. I would be more scared going into the NCAA tournament undefeated than if I had lost the conference championship, because I feel like that's so much pressure on you to finish it, and I don't know. We'll see. All right, now I believe we have a special report from Zach about some Virginia Tech intel. What you got, Zach?
Yeah, so Hokie Nation, listen up. Episode 1, we talked about this because I believe it happened then. But And I said that I was going to find an answer and report back. I have gotten so many emails and so many tweets. Guys, y'all can stop. I did it finally because I never gave everybody the answer that they wanted. So, real quick, we're going to talk about the history of the Virginia Tech bacon promotion. You don't know what I'm talking about. That's perfectly fine. You're about to. So, let's take a little deep dive real quick. Smithfield Foods, aka the Bacon Suppliers, is a company based in Smithfield, Virginia. In 2018, they decided our branding kind of sucks and we need to do better for it. So, who did they contact? None other than a little group called Prism. Peyton, you ask, what is this Prism group?
I do
right?
ask.
Did thank you. That's what I needed to hear. So this Prism group is actually a student-led advertising agency at Virginia Tech. During finals, Smithfield ran this campaign to motivate Virginia Tech students and to give them an opportunity to win the gift of a lifetime, free bacon. So how did they do this? Just like any other giveaway nowadays, they did it on Instagram. To be nominated in this giveaway, users had to tag a friend in the comments of one of these posts. And they had a chance to win so much. Smithfield branded kitchen utensils like a baking spoon, oven mitt, and other really fun freebies like bacon covered socks, hand sanitizer that was bacon flavored, a Yeti cup that had bacon on it, and a koozie that had bacon on it. But of course, the best prize ended up being free bacon for a year. This little promotion got them around 300 participants. So they said, you know what? I think that's good enough. We can do something else. And this is where the fun began. Now, from my number crunching, from my research, I can only track this back to as early as 2018 at the Virginia Tech home game when they played and I think beat Clemson. I'm not sure if they won it, but I do know that in that game, Clemson missed back-to-back free throws. And what that means, if you're a student at Virginia Tech, is that you get free bacon. So in the second half, if an opposing team misses consecutive free throws, fans go insane. The video of this from last week was when Miami happened, and you can kind of tell there's like a sense of rising action happening in this arena. Miami dude, I don't know his name, but he goes up and shoots one free throw and he misses. And everybody's like, oh my God, this is our chance. And that second free throw was so loud. The entire arena is screaming because they want this free bacon. Peyton, do you know how the story ends?
Enlighten me.
The Miami dude missed his second free throw and the walls fell at Virginia Tech's arena. Don't know the name of it. We're going to call it Hokie Central Station.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. Sounds right. But that day and on days before, free bacon was given to the students. How to acquire this free bacon, I still cannot track it down. I looked all over. I think it might be through the cafeteria. Like, I feel like I saw a post saying they got free bacon from the cafeteria, but that could have been something completely different.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's the story of how the bacon promo came to be. I don't think I told it very well, but maybe I'll get
it was good.
With more stories
to
come.
The next step in your reporting, obviously, is you need to enroll in Virginia Tech, go to a basketball game, and then figure out how they get the bacon. That'll be your next step.
Do I really want to pay for my master's just to get free bacon? No.
It's part of your job as a reporter. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our basketball week. Now, first thing we're going to talk about is the new AP poll. And I got to be honest, there was a lot of shocking kind of movements to me. The top four, not shocking: Houston, Alabama, Kansas, UCLA, as expected, the same four. Even though UCLA did have a scare against Colorado Sunday, they finished it out. But here's where it gets interesting. 5 is still Purdue. Even after the loss at home to Indiana, they stay at 5. And
Who's 6? Who's
Marquette
6?
is 6. So they moved up 4 spots to 6. And I mean, I guess it's well earned. They've been playing
Why
good.
would they not jump?
So and then we have Baylor at 7, who had the big win against Texas. Arizona only moved down 1 after the loss to Arizona State. Texas at 9 after the loss to Baylor, and Gonzaga at 10. And you're saying, oh, well, Indiana beat Purdue. They got to be up here somewhere. 11, Kansas State. Now, these next two, I don't know how they're still this high. 12, Tennessee. And 13,
Jeez.
Virginia.
Yikes.
Virginia, it still has a good record, but I feel like if you look at their quality of performances, who they've played, I feel like you have to start looking at, are they actually that good? But they are still 13, 14 UConn, who moved up 4 spots, and then finally 15 Indiana. I mean,
wow, 2 spots.
It's a little surprising.
Okay, so I'm really confused because when you look at where Indiana is, you're like, they must hate Purdue. But then you look at Purdue and you're like, oh, well, maybe they like Purdue because they didn't move at all. So
that's what Indiana? It doesn't really make sense at all, to be honest. If you're gonna move, if you think Purdue is that good to keep them at 5, then you got to move up Indiana more. But if you don't think Purdue is very good, then they should have moved down more. It doesn't make much sense because not only did they get the win, they got the win at Purdue and season sweep.
Yeah,
I feel like that should mean something. And then to finish out, we got some newcomers: Maryland at 21, Kentucky at 23, back in the top 25, and Pittsburgh at 25. And receiving votes, Creighton, Duke are the top next two. So kind of hitting into Kentucky being back in the top 25 and Duke receiving votes. I have a couple teams that I feel like are hitting their strides at the right moment, that going into the final weeks of the season, going into conference tournaments and March Madness, these teams are on the right track, and maybe you might have already written them off as teams that are not that great. Maybe they're actually getting it together. So starting off, we have Indiana. Now, they're still ranked high, and they've had a pretty good season. But earlier in the season, they struggled, and there's a real question if maybe they aren't actually as good as we thought at the start of the season. But 2 wins over Purdue, the season sweep, I feel like you got to be pretty high on them right now. I mean, they had a tough loss at Michigan State and a tough loss at Northwestern. But other than that, they've been on a pretty good run. I feel like I would feel good about them going into March Madness, especially with Jalen Hood-Schifino playing the way he is. Wow. Oh, okay. He's saying don't trust Indiana.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't. Every game they play is so close, especially in February.
But you could also look at that as a way
Purdue,
of...
Yes. They barely beat Rutgers at home, and Rutgers is good no more. Beat Michigan by 1 at Michigan. Yeah, then they lost to Northwestern. Beat Illinois by 3. Got hammered by Michigan State, which I think that was Michigan State's first home game.
I think there was a little extra on the line.
So that one's a little extra. And then they did beat Purdue at Purdue. I don't know. I don't trust. They're too up and down for me to pick getting to the Elite 8 right now.
Okay. All right. Now, our next one. This one is a team that struggled in out-of-conference play, and now they're finally putting together, it feels like, a run that could really propel them to the Final Four maybe, and that is the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They had some tough losses in the out-of-conference at Texas, which isn't bad, but they lost by 19. Purdue by 18. Baylor by 1. But wow, I didn't even know this was a game. They beat Alabama. But since then, since the loss at Purdue, the loss versus Baylor, the only loss they have is St. Mary's and LMU. And other than that, they avenged the St. Mary's loss on Saturday. And I feel like if you're sleeping on Gonzaga, don't be, because They're really hitting their stride. They're putting together, and that's roster is pretty stacked. I feel like Drew Timme going into March Madness. You don't want to doubt them. I feel like, and the experience they have.
This one I like. This one I get on more board with. Yeah, they've got. I didn't even realize Timme was still there. That's insane.
All right, the next pick.
Man, he's playing really good too. Yeah, this one.
The next pick,
I like them a little bit better.
You might call me a homer, but I have hard facts to back this up.
Okay,
is going to be the Duke Blue Devils. Now, they have not looked great in ACC play. They've had a couple bad losses, but I would say since the Virginia game where they lost, but they shouldn't have. This has been a completely different team. You look at, they beat Notre Dame. It was a close game, but they beat them. Then the next 3 games, they hadn't been great competition, but blew out Syracuse, blew out Louisville, blew out Virginia Tech. Now, the difference in that is happening now is that their team has been fully healthy for the last 2 weeks and when these games started. So before that, there was I don't think there was a game where everybody that is in the rotation was healthy that played. Roach has been out. Derica Whitehead has been out. Derek Lively's been out. And now they're finally getting all their players in. It looks like Shire's settled in. He's got the rotation down. He's got his plays out of timeouts. They were rough at the beginning of the year, but now they look good. I really think, and we'll really find out this week, I feel like, that this is a team that can make a run, especially that they're being slept on, because a lot of people think Duke is not good this year. And I think they play NC State this week at home, and if they can avenge that loss of 24 points, which is very bad earlier in the season, and then at North Carolina on Saturday, if they win both of those, I think you need to look out for Duke in March.
Yeah, they're definitely
heating up at the right time.
One thing I did not realize is since last week when we had our whole conference breakdown, the ACC is completely
the ACC
changed.
Is all over the place right now.
Completely changed. Pitt might.
I think they will. I think that's what's going to end up happening. They do have some tough games left.
What's crazy about how this ACC breakdown is, number 1 in the conference, but 25th in the country, Pitt. Number 2 in the conference, but 16th in the country, Miami. And then number 3 in the conference, but the highest ranked ACC team, Virginia, in 3rd place.
Yeah, it is. So, it's been a weird year for the ACC altogether. And then my final team that is hitting their stride at the right time is the Kentucky Wildcats. And a couple weeks ago, I would have told you this team isn't even making the tournament. But their last 4 games at Mississippi State. Mississippi State's a tough team on the bubble. Wins by 3. Beats Tennessee by 12. Goes to Florida. Wins by 8. And then on Saturday, destroys Auburn by 32. Insane. And I think the key is Oscar Tshiebwe looks like the guy we expected him to look like all year. And he's really starting to play good. And Kentucky's another team kind of like Duke. People wrote them off, and they're blue blood, and they're like, it's over for them. But I feel like they're back. I mean, Tshiebwe had 22 points, 17 rebounds against Auburn. I mean, he's playing lights out right now. Those are the 4 teams. If I'm looking at my bracket, I don't want them in my region at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And just going back to conferences, even the SEC now hasn't really completely changed, but Kentucky's in 3rd place now, where it was Tennessee, and we thought it was pretty much going to be either Tennessee or A&M, 2nd and 3rd.
A&M had a tough loss this weekend.
Crazy. Yeah, I see that.
I believe it was Mississippi State. So yeah, it's that Texas A&M is another team I'm not sure about. We talked about them last week, having played a schedule of like not tough SEC. Really, they haven't really had many challenges. And then at Mississippi State, lose by 7. And I guess the real test will be next Saturday when they play Alabama. All right. Any games we feel like we want to talk about? I will say, kind of combine here. Creighton last week, really tough. They lose to Marquette and then lose at Nova.
Yeah.
I'm a little.
Says here
Yeah,
they
it
got
was bad.
destroyed by Nova.
It was bad. They were
Oof.
down double digits at halftime, and it stayed that way the whole game. That one scares me. Creighton was one of my Final Four picks, kind of a sleeper team, and they're not looking like they were supposed to look. So that one might be one to maybe Creighton isn't as good as everyone thought. And then other than that,
I want to talk about K-State.
They're looking.
It's another. I feel like it's honestly you could put them on the same wavelength as IU, as Duke, Kentucky. It's like they might. I don't necessarily think they're getting hot right now, but it's just like, what are they? What is happening? Are they good? Are they bad? Because they beat Kansas, and that's a huge win. And everybody's looking at this new K-State team. I think they got up fifth in the country after that, and then they dropped off, and then now they come back and they beat Baylor earlier this last week. I want to say it was Monday or Tuesday, and it's like, wow, they're here again. It just seems like on that team when you get some of their guards going, Noel and Sills, and then Johnson, their forward. Oh my God, it's just those three, especially Noel and Johnson Noel and Johnson are just unstoppable.
Another team. Let's go ahead and talk about our conference tournaments beginning this week, and most of the mid-major conference tournaments will start up this week. The bigger ones will start next week. There is,
I think
the ASUN started today. There are 2 games. But I feel like one team we want to talk about especially is College of Charleston. They're in a position on the edge of being an at-large, possibly if they didn't win the conference. But I almost feel like from what I've been reading, they're at a point where they need to win this conference tournament. And they definitely made a statement on Saturday. Really? Good Lord. They destroyed.
They made a statement
against
Tuesday
Towson,
night or Wednesday night, whatever.
So I mean,
day
it's going to come down to one assumes the championship game will be them and Hofstra, and it could be on the line for a tournament spot for College Charleston. Even though this team is insanely good, it seems like that, especially that Drexel loss is the one that is really hurting them right now. But starting tonight we got the ASUN. Got 2 games in that, and then pretty much every mid-major starts this week, goes through the weekend. I got to tell you, I'm excited. This is another weekend of amazing college basketball on deck. I don't know if we can top this Saturday because the amount of insane finishes we had, but I'm definitely excited to be watching some conference tournaments, get a little taste of March Madness.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on the Big East.
That one is going to be good.
You got Marquette is ahead 2 games, so they should be good unless the wheels fall off. But yeah, Xavier and Providence are both right there knocking at the door. Either one of them could end up winning. Creighton possibly could end up winning this thing if enough people lose, I think. But let's see. Anybody else on here?
Texas Tech. Yeah, their season basically hinged on that TCU Texas Tech game, and they played good too. They just couldn't finish it off at the end. And they showed a graphic during the game. They're like current chances were 20%. They win that game, they go up to 30%. If they lost it, it went down to 10%. So they're going to need a lot to happen. A run in the Big 12 tournament for Texas Tech to make it. And I think we're ready to move on to our games of the weeks. Games of the week. Maybe. All right. Are you you want to start or me? All right.
You can go ahead.
If you know anything about me, you know what's coming. Game of the week. In this case, it's a huge game for both teams. Duke at North Carolina. And Duke on a hot streak. We'll see if they win their game on Tuesdays, and that will really put them going. And UNC, fresh off a win against Virginia, which they severely needed. And they're going to need this game as well. UNC, another bubble team that they need to win these 2 games this week, and especially the Duke game, because I think Duke is the highest net rated team in the ACC at the moment. So they really need a win against Duke on Saturday at home if they want a chance to make the tournament. And of course, it's the rivalry, the greatest in all of sports, and it's going to be great. I'm going to hope it's a good game, but Duke obviously pulls it off.
Alrighty, that will be a good one to watch. My game of the week is number 3 Kansas versus number 9 Texas. This will be at Texas. And currently, the Big 12 standings read as follows. In first place, Kentucky. That's incorrect. They don't belong there.
What's happening in the Big 12?
in first place, Kansas. And in second place, only a game behind, Texas. So, if Texas wins this, do they win?
I guess. I don't know how the tiebreakers work in the Big 12.
I feel like Kansas would need to lose to Texas Tech tomorrow. I mean, it's at Kansas.
I mean, Kansas almost lost at home to West Virginia. So,
but you do also never know.
Yeah, sorry.
Press Virginia is like that. But yeah, that's my game of the week. It is Saturday at 4:00. Interesting time on ESPN. Number 3 versus number 9. It literally does not get better than that unless you're hoping for 1 versus 2. Which
here's what I feel is interesting. I looked at the predictions on the GameCast on ESPN. 70% chance Texas wins the ball game. That seems very high. I get they're at home, but still, Kansas is a very good team. Possibly my favorite at the moment to win it all. But and then I feel like
Kansas,
their experience, I feel like they can go back to back. And then the Duke UNC game is on Saturday as well at 6:30. So just line them up back to back. You got Kansas, Texas, and then right after Duke UNC. Just keep it on ESPN all day. But UNC, 58% chance to win it. So interesting predictions there from the matchup predictor.
Okay.
We have to add in this. I forgot we did this last time. If you want to go to the North Carolina Duke game, tickets start at $366 at the moment. Honestly, not as bad as I thought. $366 for the Duke North Carolina game is not bad. If you want to go to it at Duke, it is much worse. And then the Kansas Texas game, $311. So not too bad, honestly. $300.
Not too bad.
Nothing. All right, and I think that about wraps this up. And next week we will have a bunch to talk about. Some conference tournaments wrapping up. If you need some extra things to watch, those would all be good. Turn on some low conferences that you've never seen play before and watch them in the conference tournament. That's one of my favorite things to do, because it's just they're playing for it all.
The basketball,
they're playing for
it really is
the chance to keep playing, and that's when you really get the great games. And then also, you got Alabama, Texas A&M. We got who was the other one? Pittsburgh, Miami. That could be for the ACC. Yeah. And then
for the ACC.
Arizona, UCLA. You'll have to drink some coffee for that one.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
All right.
Yeah. Drink your coffee and be mad about your seating.
That about wraps it up. Another successful episode of Full Sport Press. Well,
make sure you email us.
Literally
pointing
anything.
To you.
We'll take anything.
You out there. Well, I mean, we are getting so many now. We have a lot of people emailing us. So, I mean, it's just going to put a lot more on our plates, but we really do want you to. We are. And if you don't know where to do that, I'm not going to spell it out because we tried that once, but Full Sport Pressin with the G.
It'll be in the description. Exactly
at gmail.com.
He told me.
It will be. Yep, I will. Because Peyton didn't do it last week. Who? Me? All righty. Well, goodbye, everybody.